I want to put that letter
roll call. Mr. Kennedy? Here. Mr. Williams? Here. Mr. Clazel? Here. Mr. Burleson? Here. Mr. Gill? Here. Mr. Ford, that's me, I'm present. Mr. Volk is called and said he will be absent this evening. Mr. Everly? Here. And Mr. Green? Yes, sir. We have a quorum. Next item is the meeting minutes from our April 1st, March 1st, and our March 15th study session. Are there any questions on these meeting minutes?
Yeah, I want to make a motion to defer March 15th, 2017 study session minutes because there was minute statements made by me that are missing, especially with regards to item C, the shops on 96 Place.
Other problems with the meeting minutes?
Not that I saw.
Everybody okay with deferring the March 15th meeting minutes? Sure. Can I have a motion to that effect?
Move to defer approval of minutes for March 15, 2017. Second.
Motion by Mr. Williams, second by Mr. Kennedy. All in favor, signify by saying aye. 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 Those opposed? Motion carries. Going back to the regular meeting minutes of April 1st and March 1st. Any questions on those meeting minutes?
Mr. President, just a note for the record that that's April 1st of 2015, going back and catching up with those minutes.
Okay. April 5th.
We were requested to approve those minutes, even though many of us were not on the planning commission at that time.
That's correct.
And you can do that. Yeah, and, yeah.
Is there a motion for these meeting minutes?
Move to approve both April 1st, 2015 and March 1st, 2017 meeting minutes for regular meeting.
Motion by Mr. Williams, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Kennedy. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, those opposed? Motion carries. Next item is public hearings. Three Springs Unit 3 is a request to rezone property from R1 to R2 PUD and R3 PUD.
Mr. President, if I may.
Mr. Unit.
I would recommend at this point that the Plan Commission dismiss the application by Three Springs for R1 to R2 PUD and R3 PUD, while there is an R2 PUD, your zoning ordinance does not provide for an R3 PUD. There is no such classification.
So you're saying that there's improper notification?
Not a notification, you don't have a classification. It just doesn't exist. It's not a matter of notice. Notice has been issued, but there is no such classification that can be created. So my recommendation is that we dismiss it and terminate the public hearing.
Does that create problems for us for other?
Yes.
We think we have one other R3 PD that's going on currently.
You have an R2 PUD.
No, across the street from Lake Central?
You're referring to the Myers.
Yes.
Right.
Wasn't that an R3 PUD as well?
If it is my recommendation.
So we have an
exactly
issue
the
there as
same.
well.
It does not exist.
So how do we deal with situations where we would like to allow the developer to construct in such a way that is not consistent with R3 code?
You would have to have variances from the various, the BZA would
So
have.
that's BZA work then?
Yes, sir.
Right.
So you're saying that current PUD zoning, well, the 2 units that we're in discussion with need to be terminated?
I haven't seen Mr. Myers. If Mr. Myers is a request for a PUD 3 zoning, it does not exist. It would have to be terminated and dismissed in the same fashion.
And historically,
That's approved, yeah.
historically, things that have been done in the past, this is not affected by that.
It is not affected because those items have passed through without a remonstrance directed to that classification and/or the final approval being appealed under the terms of the subdivision control ordinance and/or zoning ordinance and state statutes governing same. It's, you can't raise defects after the process is approved. Now, I'm not telling you it was correct. I'm saying it's done, it was not remonstrated against, it's past the appeal period, that one's over with. This one's not at that stage, and I guess I don't believe I had anything to do with any of those other ones. I do have something to do, obviously, with the Myers one. I haven't addressed it yet. But I'm governed by what the four corners of the ordinance says, and you simply don't have that classification in the ordinance. It doesn't exist.
Mr. Forbes?
I'm just still trying to wrap my head around this. So, it would be very easy for someone to remonstrate against this one now, with this knowledge.
Yeah, they could easily remonstrate, and remonstrance would be valid.
A valid remonstrance, not.
Absolutely.
Okay.
My point is that you can't have an application, or in my opinion, you can't file an application for a non-existent classification. So that's the reason I'm suggesting it be dismissed rather than proceed through the public hearing and go away. You'd be holding a public hearing on classification that doesn't exist. To put it in the context of a lawyer filing a lawsuit, if it does not meet the requirements of the law, which are generally addressed with a dismissal procedure and a dismissal motion, there's not a verdict or a judgment for the defendant or the plaintiff. If it's not legally sufficient, it's dismissable. And that's what we have here. It's not legally sufficient. You do not have that classification.
So they can still propose this site plan, but they're in the wrong form.
They're in the wrong form. Their procedure, if they choose to proceed, the R2 does have a PUD classification subject to Chapter 9 and its elements A through L, whatever it is that's at the back of that section. They can file for an R3 classification if they would choose to do that. And they would have to seek variances to the extent that they are going to digress from the strict requirements of the R3 zoning classification.
At the BZA.
At BZA level, yes, sir.
Our representative.
I represent Barrick Builders, Your Honor, Mr. Forbes and Barrick. My name is Dave Servin. I'm an attorney. My address is 9013 Indianapolis Boulevard in Highland. I live in Munster, 8419 Bering Avenue in Munster. I know Mr. I looked at your ordinances and pulled them out, and I went back and I looked at your minutes, and I respectfully disagree with this position with respect to the authority of you all to entertain this petition. I think it is within your ordinance, and at the very least, I would like you to perhaps have the lawyers look it over after you hear what I'm about to say. First of all, my client, Mr. Barrett, has been here numerous times. He's made 9 revisions to his plans. He spent thousands of dollars on this. He was told by representatives of the town that in order to get this development done as proposed to you, that it should go the PUD process. I mean, he followed what he was told. This was before the lawyers involved. And he had every right to believe that, because prior to him, we entertained similar requests and passed them, and I've been told Greystone, Mill Creek, Gates of St. John. So after I talked to Mr. Munich, I went online and started looking at the minutes from your past meetings. I came across one February 3rd of last year, Gates of St. John. It was specifically a request, zone change from R1 PUD single family to R3 PUD duplex. It was voted on and approved unanimously. Council was at the meeting. You did it again on April 6, 2016. It came before you. With respect to Greystone, Mr. Forbes read a letter, this is from the minutes, on Greystone. The subdivision project includes approximately 84 R2 PUD residential lots, 36 R3 PUD residential lots, and 1 C1 PUD lot. And then in July of last year, July 6, 2016, apologize for this is in connection with a proposal by Boyer Commercial Center to rezone from C2 industrial to C2 PUD. Now, if you pull out your ordinance, I agree with Mr. Munich that Chapter 5, which talks about residential districts, talks about an RC1 PUD district. It talks about an R2 PUD district. It is silent as to a PUD district for R3. It also talks in Chapter 6 about your commercial districts, general commercial, C1, which is the one that I just talked about from Boyer. There's no PUD designation there. C2, no PUD designation there. C3, no PUD designation there. C4, no PUD designation there. Throughout the ordinance with respect to the classifications of the properties of the districts, the only 2 where a PUD is specifically mentioned is R1 and R2. So what I believe you should do is go from chapters 5 and 6 and go to chapter 9, which is the PUD ordinance. And the PUD ordinance talks about just the PUD district. It doesn't say anything about R1, R2, R3, or C1, or C2, or anything like that. It says provisions are included in this chapter to permit the establishment of areas in which diverse uses may be brought together as a compatible and unified plan of development, which shall be in the interest of the general welfare of the public. The PUD doesn't say anything about R1, R2, R3, C1. The PUD must provide for an efficient use of land resulting in an economical network of streets, utilities, and public facilities. The PUD must demonstrate a quality of design, including architectural styles, building relationships, and enhanced aesthetics. The PUD shall demonstrate a creative approach. And then at the very end, the last sentence, within the purpose, the very first paragraph of the ordinance under Chapter 9, a PUD shall be permitted by the Plan Commission. So it doesn't designate PUD R1, PUD R2, PUD R3, or C1, which you've allowed in the past. It just talks about a PUD, meaning overall, the district can be classified as a PUD. If you read further in chapter 9, and I'm sorry that I have to, I wish I had a flow chart, but it talks about residential standards, and it talks about the zoning districts, and it says, the land uses allowed in a residential PUD shall be those permitted uses for the district as listed in the table in chapter 3. So the ordinance says residential PUD, and those things that are permissible in a residential PUD are those things in chapter 3 in the schedule. If you go to chapter 3, you go to the section E, which shows the schedule, and you look at the schedule, and you look at the residential classifications. It includes single family, it includes R1, R2, R3. So under your ordinance, your PUD ordinance, chapter 9, under the section D, the residential standards, if you go to this section, anything within residential use, which includes R3, is covered by the ordinance, by the PUD ordinance. So even though one section of the ordinance references PUD, R1 and R2, and not R3, this takes care of the oversight or problem there. It also takes care of it with respect to the C classifications, which you've done also, because as I pointed out before, the C provides no PUD, C classifications provide no PUD either in the text of chapter 5 or 6, I guess it is. So I guess the long and the short of it is, I can't believe that if this was improper and you've done it, I don't know how many times. I mean, I just found 3 of them from the last year. Those people can't just slide under the rug and say, well, sorry, nobody remonstrated. You're telling me from the beginning tonight, nobody's remonstrating against it, but we don't have the right to do it. Well, if it's invalid, illegal, then how could these people have gotten away with it as well? And why should they get a pass when my guy, who's been 9 times